This was on the front page of the newspapers in 1800, in the election that pitted the sitting vice president, Thomas Jefferson, against the sitting president, John Adams. The grand question stated, only one question to be asked of every American. Shall I continue in an allegiance to God and in a religious president, or impiously declare for Jefferson and no God? Adams, Hamilton, Jefferson, Ben Franklin, and many of the other founding fathers were in all probability deists. They were the children of the Enlightenment. They saw reason as the best way to understand the world and figure things out. However, Adams and the rest of them never made their private religious beliefs known publicly. Jefferson, on the other hand, always did. Jefferson, when he had been a politician in Virginia, sponsored one of the most important acts of his career. In fact, it's one of the things he wanted to have mentioned on his tombstone. And that was the Virginia Statute on Religious Freedom. In this statute, the notion was that they would disestablish the Church of England, the Episcopal Church in Virginia. This meant that, number one, it wouldn't be the official church. Number two, it would not receive tax money to support its schools and programs. And that all people would be free to practice their own religions. And in the late 18th century, there was a movement known as the Great Awakening. And this was an evangelical movement, if you will, and it was mainly among the so-called dissenting religions, the Methodists and the Baptists and certain others. And they were clamoring for religious freedom, which they did not have. They were often thrown in jail. So Jefferson proposes the statute on religious freedom, but he can't get it through. Jefferson was great at many things, but he was not a good, down and dirty, in the trenches type of politician. For that, he called on his buddy James Madison. James Madison was in the Virginia Assembly, and Madison got that statute through. And now his opponents began to attack Jefferson as an atheist. They didn't understand deism. Deism essentially said there may be a God, and he kind of kicked things off, but he doesn't intervene in daily life. And there is no need for organized religion. Scriptures are interesting. In fact, Jefferson had taken his Bible, his New Testament, and cut it up and added and subtracted and so forth, and created his own Bible of stories and lessons that he thought were important ethical lessons that everybody should learn. But he did not accept it as Holy Writ. So he was ripe for the attacks as being an atheist. Additional places where he could be attacked, and that was because he had always been a big supporter of the French Revolution. And at one point, the French Revolution was taken over by the Jacobins. And what the Jacobins did is set out to destroy private property and the church and religion. And they attacked churches, they tore them down, they turned them into temples of reason, and in fact they were accused of turning them into brothels. All of this came back and was hurled at Jefferson by his opposition in that incredible, dirtiest election ever of 1800. Now there's something else going on here. Jefferson and Adams were great friends. They were part of that revolutionary brotherhood. They had served in the Continental Congress. They knew each other well when they were both serving as representatives in Europe. They got together. They spent time in one another's homes. They knew one another's belief systems. Adams never once spoke out to defend Jefferson against the attacks of being an atheist and a Jacobin. He just simply kept quiet. And this brings us to the leadership lessons around religion and the fights around religion in this and the election of 1800. One of the first things that a leader has to do is to ignore labels. Very savvy and successful leaders know that great ideas can come from anywhere. Great ideas can come from people who are very, very different than you, because of a different faith, because of a different ethnic background, whatever. And they avoid those thinking traps that bias and religious ideas can give us. True leaders refute the ridiculous, unequivocally.